Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Hack, and in this video, we'll be reviewing one of the easiest builds you can pick up in Elden Ring, the Knight. This build has incredible defense and survivability in this game, thanks to 100% block mitigation and high guard boost, allowing you to easily absorb hits from multiple enemies at once, and then guard counter that into powerful damage combos. If you're new to Souls-like games, or you've just been struggling at all with combat in Elden Ring, this build makes it incredibly easy, and best of all, you can get the equipment for this build right away at the start of the game. So let's go over everything you need to know to set up a Knight build in Elden Ring. So there are a few starting classes in Elden Ring that will work best for a Knight-style build early on in the game. The top three I would recommend here include the Vagabond, the Samurai, and the Hero class. These classes are best suited for a Knight build because they have high strength, high endurance, and high vigor stats. Any of these classes can work really well, but my favorite, and in my opinion the easiest of the three, is going to be the Vagabond class. Vagabonds have basically a banished knight story and background, so they start with very good weapons and armor for this style of build. They have a basic longsword and a halberd, which will work extremely well with this playstyle, and they are one of just two classes in the game that have this 100% physical damage negation shield at the start of the game. Though honestly, the shield is not a huge deal in this case because we will be replacing that right away with something much better. So choose whichever you want, but Vagabond is a pretty solid starting option. And once you've chosen your class, I would recommend picking up the Golden Seed as your keepsake. This is probably just the best starting gift in the game because you can use this right away to get an extra healing flask charge for your build. Now, there are many ways to start the game as a knight, but my preference is to head over to the Gatefront Ruins as early as possible. This is located north of the Church with Kale, and it's a pretty great farming spot for early levels too. Before you get too far though, make sure to pick up the next Site of Grace just beyond the ruins, and then rest here to speak with Melina to get your mount. From here, it's really just about farming soldiers and practicing combat. You want to get good at blocking incoming damage because you'll be too heavy to roll effectively at the start. And then especially try to practice your guard counters. This is the best way to play a Knight build effectively in my opinion, allowing you to negate all incoming damage while also counter-attacking for a big chunk of damage yourself. Now in this area there are 4 soldiers specifically who carry the brass shield, which is what we want to upgrade our build early. So just farm those 4 over and over until you get it. It usually takes about 10 minutes if you ignore the other soldiers. Now, the brass shield is great for early game because it has that same 100% damage mitigation from physical damage. It has higher elemental resistances and also a higher guard boost, which means you're going to lose less stamina while blocking. To equip this, you'll need at least 16 strength, which is 2 more than the Vagabond starts with. So just get a few more levels here if needed, and then we'll move on to upgrading our weapon. We're about to get a powerful Knight Halberd with a +8 upgrade. And this can be done right at the start of the game. You'll need to come down south across the bridge into the Weeping Peninsula and find Castle Morn. There's a lot of powerful enemies here, but we can avoid most of them either by sneaking or just running past. So after you kill the 3 dogs, sneak past the other enemies in the courtyard and then kill this single enemy on your way to the ladder. Up the ladder, you'll have 1 more enemy rush to you who you should be able to guard counter pretty easily. Then from there, simply run past everything else and hop down the left side of the tower and then sprint all the way down to the end. This final tower is where we'll find Knight Edgar, and after speaking to him, you can defeat him in combat to earn his halberd, which is what we want. The fight here can be tricky, but if you stay far enough away, you should be able to poke him after he strikes out at you, as well as block his incoming attacks. Your shield should make this fight pretty easy. So the Banished Halberd is not a unique weapon in Elden Ring, but the fact that it's +8 at the start of the game is pretty incredible. I got over a 60 damage boost by equipping this over the standard Vagabond Halberd, so this will get us quite far really fast. Next, we're going to pick up a unique Ash of War for the Brass Shield that will give us even better guard stability. For this, we'll need to travel back to Castle Morn Rampart Grace and then wait until nightfall. At this point, a Knight's Cavalry should appear, which is kind of a world mini-boss. And you can choose to fight this guy on horseback if you want, but I prefer just to stay on my feet. rolling his big attacks and then sidestepping and using guard counters whenever possible. The key here is that he is right-handed and he tends to attack from his right side while mounted. So sidestepping to the left and poking him with that +8 halberd should chunk his health down pretty fast. Also, if you knock him off the horse, you can follow up with a big critical hit. So this fight is definitely doable right away. The Barricade Shield Ash of War is your reward here, so apply this to your brass shield for even more protection and stability. The next Ash of War you'll need is for your halberd, and for this we're heading back to the coast of Limgrave near the Seaside Ruins Grace. This one is a bit hard to find. You actually need to get on Torrent and jump down into the Spirit Spring to safely land on the beach below. And from here, follow the shore until you find this mini-boss under the arch. He is tough, he has a long range, so take your time, it might take a few tries, and watch out especially for his gravity pull ability because this means he's about to impale you on his sword. But a couple of well-placed guard counters should do the trick here and award you the Gravitas Ash of War, which we can equip on our main weapon. Now we actually need one more Ash of War to make this build really work, so go back to the Gatefront Ruins and head north through the cliffs. Along the way you'll be able to pick up another golden seed, so make sure to apply this to your flask as soon as possible, and pick up a really good summon over at the Stormhill Shack. The jellyfish summon that you can get here by speaking to the NPC will become quite useful later on, especially against some of the tougher bosses like Margit and Godric, so it's worth picking up. From the Stormhill Shack, head southeast until you make it to the War Master's Shack. This is another important early location in Elden Ring where you can buy Ashes of War from the War Master. If you have some extra runes, you can experiment with these, but the Gravitas Ash that we got earlier I think is much better. The main reason though that we came here is actually for the no-skill Ash of War. Only 600 runes, but very useful. Now, this might seem strange at first, but we're actually going to apply this one to any other shield we've picked up, or you can just use the original Vagabond shield because it's nice and light. Now the reason you want to do this is when your left-hand armament has no skill or no Ash of War attached to it, it makes your right-hand Ash of War the default, which you can then use by pressing L2. This is great for our build especially because it allows us to use that powerful AoE Gravitas while still having a shield available for blocking and countering when we need it. And you can do all of this without having to two-hand the halberd weapon. So basically from now on we can have two shields, one more defensive with our Barricade Ash of War, and one shield for a more offensive playstyle using Gravitas. Okay, let's talk about armor for the Knight build next, and luckily there are many good options in the game early on which fit the Knight theme very well. The easiest in my opinion is the Knight armor set, which you can buy in Round Table Hold as soon as you get there. This has slightly better stats than the Vagabond armor, but also has that true Knight and shining armor look if that's what you're going for. There are better pieces that you can pick up from enemies in Limgrave and Stormvale Castle as well. These are often heavier but do offer more protection. This includes the Banished Knight set you can get from Banished Knights in Stormvale Castle, and the Godric Knight set you can get from farming the Knight at the Gatefront Ruins. You can mix and match these pieces however you want, but to wear the truly heavy pieces like the chest and helmet, you'll probably need more endurance and equip load, which we can get from leveling up or from equipping the right type of talisman. Now speaking of talismans, the two I recommend for this build starting out are the Radagon Scar Seal Talisman for the stats and the Green Turtle Talisman for the stamina regeneration. Let's start with the Turtle Talisman, which requires basically no effort at all. You'll need to head east towards the edge of Limgrave and find the Summon Water Village. From there, just look for the turtles. You'll need one Stone Sword key to unlock this area, but once you do, just head in and open the chest to receive the Green Turtle Talisman. This is a great option for a Knight build, which tends to be very stamina intensive, since this greatly increases your stamina recovery rate. The Radagon Scar Seal Talisman requires that you unlock the Everjail in the Weeping Peninsula, which requires one more Stone Sword key. The boss fight here against the Ancient Hero should be pretty easy at this point on this build. The boss is fairly slow, allowing you to run in with those jumping R2 attacks, And his own attacks are also slow, with enough telegraph where you should be able to get your shield up in time and get a big juicy guard counter at the end. The Radagon Scar Seal Talisman is your reward, which increases your vigor, endurance, strength, and dexterity. Now there are other talismans you can find early on which are very good as well. One that increases the damage of your guard counter attacks, another increases your equip load, so feel free to mix and match whatever fits your build the best. So how should you approach combat as a knight build in Elden Ring? Well, it's really all about that guard counter. Most basic enemies in the game will easily have their stance broken by a few consecutive guard counters, allowing you to get in an easy critical hit. Remember to also use the long range of your halberd to your advantage by keeping your shield up and then poking enemies from a distance when the opportunity arises. Halberds are particularly effective in that they often can stagger enemies, letting you get in multiple hits before backing off. Just don't get too greedy. Gravitas can also be used to thin out groups of enemies, and make sure to practice your jump attacks as these are quite helpful for getting yourself positioned into melee range. For tougher enemies, you'll need to learn their attack patterns and combos so that you can properly counter them. For big, damaging strikes, you may need to use a few rolls to completely avoid damage, while not losing too much stamina. And for smaller combos or chain attacks, you should be able to block the entire thing, especially when using Barricade Shield. Then when the combo ends, strike out quickly with a guard counter. Obviously no build is invincible in Elden Ring, but this one does feel really strong when you're able to completely block a boss combo and then smash them back in the face. So with that said, hopefully you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. If you did, do us a favor and crush that like button. It absolutely helps the channel grow and helps YouTube to recommend this video to more people. This is actually our second YouTube channel, which is now focused entirely on single-player RPGs, just like Elden Ring. So if you like this type of content, make sure to let me know in the comments section down below. Make sure you're subscribed, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you around in the next video.